Hello, sixth grade. I want to give you an introduction on Module 2. At this point in time, you have worked your way through Module 1. You've looked at lessons, you've got a notebook, you've taken some practice exams, you've taken some quizzes, you've had your first DBA, you've taken your Module 1 exam. Now it's time for Module 2, so I want to go through the same thing. I want to give some introductory thoughts, some key points that I would like for you to direct your attention and focus to in order to be successful in the Module 2. And Module 2 is going to deal with ratios and rate reasoning. So when you open up that module, you're going to see, you've got your pretest and you've got your understanding ratios, the unit rate, equivalent ratios, all of these through here. Anything that has, if you see something that has a closed eye on it, you may see that, you may not, but that just means that it's not available to you. So, what are some pieces that are important? Well, you're going to study on how to write, compare, and reason through ratios. And that's your first lesson, is just understanding a ratio. Good idea to always look at the first page. It always kicks off with something that's real, something where in the world we could find this application. And those are always good pieces to jot down in your notebook, or just some things that, yeah, that's a real situation. That could be something that I could speak to in a DBA. But there are different ways to write ratios, and I want you to be able to explain those 3 different ways to write a ratio. I also want you to be able to discuss unit rates. Unit rate is another lesson. You've got 7 pages on this. Talks about the differences in rates and unit rates. I want you to be able to discuss what is a unit rate and how is it different from general rates. You may just hear that a rate is 30 miles for 30 minutes. Well, I want to know what is a unit rate and how you're going to compute that. So be able to compare the 2 different rates, a unit rate versus a rate, and then be able to compute the unit rate and be able to tell me what that is. And how is a unit rate special or different than just a general rate? Equivalent ratios. I want you to be able to complete a ratio table. So look through your 8 pages that you have here, and when it talks about ratio tables and how you can create one, there's different methods on how to do that. I want you to be mindful of that. I want you to be able to explain that to me. I'm going to give you a ratio table, and I want you to be able to complete it for me in multiple ways. So be able to know the different ways that you can do that. Definitely want you to focus on percentages and how you take a percent of something. You're going to discuss this a bit more in application in 7th grade, but in this year, you're really kind of learning how you can multiply decimals, which you learned in Module 1. But in this lesson, you're taking a percentage, so how you would change a percentage to a decimal that you can then multiply by some number. So definitely be able to explain and be able to compute an example that I give you on how to take a percentage of a number. Finally, the measurements and unit conversions. I want you to be able to take something, for instance, that if I give you something in miles, I want you to be able to change it into feet. If I give you something in yards, I want you to be able to change it into inches. If I give you something in kilograms, how can you change it into grams? So it's important to look at your measurement and the conversion factors that I talk about. When I give you a conversion factor, 1 mile to 5,280 feet, that's a conversion factor. You're going to use those to help you change to different units. And I'll give you a question that I want you to be able to convert. And so be able to utilize the conversion ratios to help explain that. And so that's going to be everything. Then you'll have your practice test, then you'll come up with your DBA. So again, this is just an introductory video on what is important in this lesson on ratios and rate reasoning.